Hi everyone, welcome to the One Code Count channel. In this video, we will dissect the core concept of handling requests and responses focusing on the GET request. So we will discover how web servers process client requests and provide responses using the GET method. So by the end of this video, you will understand how the GET request drives data retrieval from servers and enhances interactive web encounters. So let's get started.
Hi guys, and welcome back in our ExpressJS video tutorial. So this method, we are going to talk about HTTP requests. And by the end of this video, we are going to update our server code so that we can handle a GET request to our homepage of our website. So if you're excited, then let's proceed and write the code for our server. Hello guys, so in this lesson, we are going to talk all about HTTP requests. We're going to talk about what are HTTP requests and some of the words that we use for HTTP requests. Also, we are going to talk about the basics of what an HTTP is, and we will do some analogy so that you can better understand what HTTP is and how to use HTTP requests in our server. So first, let us understand what HTTP means. So basically, HTTP means Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So hypertext, you are already familiar with this one since this is related to the meaning of HTML. And transfer protocol, on the other hand, acts like a language. So therefore, we can say that HTTP or Hypertext Transfer Protocol is the language used by two computers to communicate with one another via the internet. So for analogy, let us assume there are two people here trying to communicate with one another. Let's say that this particular person 1 wants to say something to this person number 2 right here. And in order for person 1 to communicate with person 2, he would need a way to communicate with person 2. And for us humans, that particular way of communicating with a person is via language. So a person can communicate his thoughts via language and speaking with another person, for example, person number 2 right here. So for computers, the main way of communicating between two computers, or the language between two computers, is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It is their way of communicating with one another via the internet. So basically, what HTTP is a way for two computers to communicate with one another via the internet. So proceeding now with the discussion, here we have the HTTP request verb, or words, or vocabulary. You can call it whatever you want, basically. But mostly, they are called verbs or words, since they portray actions for your server to do. So there are a lot of HTTP request verb, but these 5 are the most commonly used: get, post, put, patch, and delete. Each verb has a different function on their own. So as you remember, when we accessed our website that is running on localhost 3000, we get the error cannot get the homepage, or the /, which basically means that we don't have a GET request or GET handler in our server. And basically, what a GET request does is it gets a resource from the server. So whenever you make a GET request to a server, the server will respond with a particular resource back, whether it will be a web page or a file, or whether it will be a web page or a file, then it will be served by the computer or served by the server. The post request, on the other hand, it means that you, as the client or the front end, is transferring or sending a resource to the server. So basically what it means is like you are uploading a file to the server, and the server will basically process that file, whatever they want to do with it, or whatever is coded inside of the server to be done when they receive that particular file. Now next is we have these two other verbs, put and patch. So both of these verb or HTTP request are both used to update a resource inside of the server. But the difference is the put request replaces the resource inside of it. So for example, if you send a resource or a file, then that particular file will be put in the server, and whatever the file that is needed to be replaced in the server will be replaced by the file that you have sent. So that is a put request. A patch, on the other hand, just patch up a resource in the server. So basically, for example, there's a file in the server and you want to patch it, then you can just send the particular part of the file you want to patch and it will be patched up in the server. So a good analogy for this one is, for example, you're buying a bicycle. So you bought a bicycle from the store, and when you brought it home, you realize that the wheels are broken, or one of the wheel is broken. So a put request is like returning the whole bicycle to the store and replacing it, and the store replacing it with a new bicycle. So that is a put request. A patch, on the other hand, is like returning the broken wheel alone and then having the store replace that broken wheel, and then you go home and you fix the bike all by yourself. So that is the difference between a put and patch request. So proceeding with the last HTTP request verb is the delete. So basically it says it all. Delete just deletes a resource inside of your server. So so these are the most common HTTP request vocabulary that you will use in our backend journey. But there are a lot of other HTTP request verb that are available to be used in the server or with Express. So you can just do a quick search and learn all about it. So going back to our code on the previous lesson, we have here our code for our simple server right here. And I will run this particular server by issuing the command node space index.js. And now we can see that our server is currently running on port 3000. So in order for us to access this particular site, what we can do is open a browser and then access the localhost 3000. And you can see here that we get an error that says cannot get /, which means that we cannot get the homepage of this particular website. So the reason why we get this particular error is back in our code, we can see here that we don't have any code that will handle the get request to this particular page, which is the homepage. So what we can do is add some codes that will handle the get request to the root directory of our webpage or the homepage of our website. So in order for us to handle that get request to the homepage, what we need to do is write a code app.get. And this particular method came from ExpressJS. So what it does is it handles a get request to a particular route, which in this case, the route that we want to handle is the homepage, which is signified by the /. And the second argument for this function is basically an anonymous function that has two parameters, request and response. And inside of this function, what we first will do is just console load the request object right here. So basically what we will see is the contents of the request right here. So this particular request, it came from the browser who is requesting this particular website. So now that we have our code done, what we can do is in our terminal, currently our server is still running, and unfortunately it won't reflect the changes right away. So what we need to do in order for us to see the changes is first to stop the server by pressing Ctrl+C and then running the command node index.js again. And this time our server is running at port 3000, and going back to the browser, and I will access again localhost 3000. I'll press enter. Currently it would just load infinitely because we are not sending back a particular file or page to the client. But going back to VS Code and the terminal, you can see there are a lot of informations right here that particularly came from the browser. So this is a lot of information to digest. So we won't discuss too much about it. But what we can do is stop the server first, and then what we can do is check a key inside of the request header, which is the raw headers. And this particular raw headers contains information about the browser that is currently sending or accessing this particular website via the GET request. So now let us restart our server and then go back to the browser and access the localhost 3000 again. And let's go back and see here the data that we received from the server. So as you can see here, these are the particular data that this particular browser used. So you can see here that we are currently accessing localhost 3000, and you can see here the browser that accessed it. This is a Brave, so I'm using Brave browser to access this particular website, as you can see here. So this is Brave. So yeah, the details here is shown. You can see also here my operating system, which is currently Linux, and other data that you can see here. So this is basically what the request raw headers contain. So now what we can do is I'll just delete this console log, and instead of just console logging the request object, what we can do instead is to use the object respond, and inside of this particular object we have a method called send, and this particular method sends a word or a string back to the client side. So for example, once you access this particular server and this particular route, which is the off page, then whatever is sent back by this particular line will be shown in the browser. So in this case, I'll just say welcome to the home page right here. So whenever our browser goes to localhost 3000 homepage, which is denoted by the slash again, so we will basically see, or the server will send this information back, which is just some words that says welcome to the homepage. So now, since our server is currently running, we just press Ctrl+C to stop it, and then run again our server. And now our server is running, and we can go to our browser right here. And as you can see, it automatically refreshed the page, and you can see here now the welcome to the homepage words that was sent back by our code right here. So that concludes our lesson for today on how to properly handle HTTP GET request. However, you might have noticed that every time we do some changes in our code right here, what we need to do in the terminal is stop the server and then run the server again. And then if we change another part of our code, we again stop the server and then run the server again. So it's a little bit cumbersome, and it's a little bit annoying, in fact, to have your server stop and then restop every time you need to change a code in your index.js. However, there's a tool that we can use in order for us to automatically update our server every time there's a change in our code. And that is what we are going to talk about next.